Howdy folks, and welcome back to Metcalf Mills. Hit that like button, subscribe if you ain't already, tell your friends about us. All them things will help our channel. Today in the shop we're going to be making a part. If you remember that old Straub Gem of the South Gristmill that we worked on a while back, dressed the stones, poured a babbitt bearing. Well, I've been waiting since then to try and find a good picture of the original setup on the shoe adjustment that adjusts the shoe to feed the grain into that grist mill. It was all gone. I have been unable to find a good picture. I don't like guessing when I'm making something, but we don't have much choice. We need to get this part made and get it off to the customer. We're going to fabricate this part. We'll be working at the forge on the anvil and doing a little welding. Let's get to work. This is the little sketch I made when the grist mill was here at the shop so that I would know the measurements of what that had to be, so that when I found a picture, if I did the original setup, I'd know what I had to work with. So this is the end of the sleeve that goes down to feed the grain into the grist mill. This is a side view of it. The bracket I'm going to make is going to bolt on here. It's going to flare out around these two ears, and it's going to come up and loop back over and back down on the other side the same way. Up here in the top center, there's going to have to be an extra ear welded on for this adjustment wheel. So there'll be a hole in that ear. This adjustment wheel will go down in there. It'll allow him to turn this knob and raise and lower the feed shoe to feed the grain into that mill. So this is an end view of the grain drop that goes down to the auger to go into the millstones. And like I said, the bracket's going to come up, go over top of the shoe and back down. The adjustment wheel is going to be on an ear up here and come down and hook into the grain shoe. So to start laying out this piece of metal for this, we're going to start down here. So there's a 3/8 hole here where the bracket will bolt on each side of the drop. I'm going to go past this 3/8 hole an inch. So we'll start out on the bottom of this with 1 inch. And to the center of this hole, it needs to be 8 inches up to the top of the bracket. So we've got 1 inch to the bottom of the 3/8 hole. Half of 3/8 is 3/16. Then 8 inches up to the top of the bracket from the center of the hole. Adding on 1/4 inch for the bend at the top. Also, there's a little jut out right here that we probably ought to add another 1/4 inch. So we'll just add a total 1/2 inch to that for the bends. Then the bracket will go over. This is 5 inches wide. So that's what the bracket will be on top, 5 inches wide. Add 5 inches, come over to the next bend. Add another 1/2 inch for that bend. Coming down, we've got another 8 inches, another 3/16, and another 1 inch. So we'll add these up to get the total length of our piece of stock that we need.
1/2, 1, 3/16, 3/16, 3/8. So we got 8, 16, 1 inch, 2 halves, 17 plus 5, 22, plus 1 plus 1, 24, and 3/8.
So the total is 24 and 3/8 long on our piece of stock. We'll cut it 26 inches. To make this part, we're going to use a piece of 1/4 by 1 flat stock. And instead of setting my bandsaw up to cut this, I'm just going to cut it with a hacksaw. Now then, what we're going to do is we're going to lay out the measurements on this piece of stock for all of our bends. So this piece of stock is 26 inches long, and I'm going to go ahead and start at the end, mark 1 3/16. That's where our hole's going to be to bolt this bracket to the mill. We're going to come up from there. We're going to come up from the center of the 3/8 hole, 3/4 of an inch. And that's where our bend is going to start to flare out to go around the drop. From this flare out, we're going to come up and find the center of this piece of stock so we can work back to that point, because it's kind of undetermined. It's got to flare out and go around a 3/4 inch lip. Half of this stock is going to be exactly 13 inches. We'll start in the center and start working our way back from the center. So we know the bracket on top needs to be 5 inches wide. Okay, half of that is going to be 2.5 inches. So we're going to mark 2.5 inches. That's where our 90-degree bend is going to be, or more than 90 to allow for this lip. That's where that bend's going to be going down. Supposed to be about 8 inches from there down. So you can see we've got a little bit of space here to play with to allow for that to flare out to go around that lip. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the center mark. Next, I'm going to mark the center of the holes I need to drill to mount this bracket onto the mill. And I'm also going to mark all the bend points so that when I'm working this hot piece of metal, I don't have to try to do any measuring on it. I've already got my marks. I'm bad to throw all my little bits of wood over here on the forge, scraps I mean, and I guess it'd make more sense if I put them in a something to contain them, but I might start doing that, who knows. I always throw them over here so I'll have them when I'm ready to build a fire in the forge and won't have to hunt something. They'll be good and dry. They get real good and dry laying right here. Plenty of good airflow. And that's what we like. Good dry wood. Little paper. We go to build a fire in our forge. Get these old burn up clinkers, throw them out. Here's where the air blast is. We don't have a tweeter on this because it's an old forge and everything was rusted out, and I'm just making do. One of these days I'd like to build a new forge, but that's not something I use enough to justify. I'm not a blacksmith. I forge and blacksmith when I have to. I would do it more because I enjoy it if I had time. But as you all know, we're blessed with everything around here except extra time. What'll happen, them little chunks will get down in there, stop up your air gate. So what I do, I clean it out good. And if you got a tweeter, you can turn that handle on the outside and it'll break all that up in there and keep it cleaned out for you pretty much. But you still get chunks that just block off that air blast. You have to clean it out. So what I do, I pick me out some big chunks of coke and I throw them all over that air blast. What that does is it keeps them little old bitty chunks from going down in there and stopping it up on me. Now, I know there's some of you out there that do this sort of thing, especially my old buddy Danny and Mike. My buddies Danny and Mike, it helped me put that band on that millstone. They've done a lot of this, I know, and they helped me a lot. That's one of the things that amazes me with these videos, is that even though there's nobody here working in the shop to say, hey, you can do it this way and it'll be easier, because I'm never going to get too old or too smart to listen and learn to somebody that knows more than I do. But that's something that's amazed me, that they will watch me working on my videos and they'll say, hey, here's an easier way, just talking on the phone. And I just can't tell you how much they've helped me, you know, over it's getting to be years almost, or at least over the last year, by telling me these things. And it's just such a blessing. I'm so thankful for you, Danny and Mike. I'm really thankful for you. And everybody else that offers a help. That's what I'm here trying to do. I'm trying to help and encourage others. And we all know when you sow seeds, you reap what you've sowed. And it sure has come to me abundantly. I appreciate all the help. If you got any comments or advice, be glad to hear it.
Together.
And planer shavings makes a real thing to start a forge fire with. Well, we're ready to build a fire in the forge and start working on this bracket. We got an invite today from some dear friends. We hadn't seen them in a little while, and they invited us to come eat dinner with them. So me and Virginia's gonna go do that, and I'm gonna hold off till I get back. I'm building a fire here and making this bracket. We're gonna go eat dinner, and that's our midday meal around here, dinner is. And I'll be back, and we'll get this thing made after dinner. Well, got back from dinner. Time to build a fire and smith out a bracket. Just so happens this step up from the cut plate on my anvil is exactly 3/4 of an inch. So that's gonna be a good spot good gauge to go by in making this little bend right here. A little better than, which is what I like. A little better than, and it won't be too close of a tolerance. That's good. Now the other end. Make that easy to pretty up later. It's not setting perfectly flat side to side, and that's going to be important, which our other bends could change that as well, but I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's correct end to end right now. So one of them needs to be twisted just a little bit. So I'm going to put it in the forge. Heat that opposite end up. So now I'm going to put in the two bends to make this thing arch up. All right, I got my little bender here in my vise. And what that'll let me do is I see my mark on here. I'm a little off on my heating, but I want to make it a little wider up here than 5 inches because of that 3/4 out over here. So that looks like we got about half of that. Got my mark, and it's a little wider, so that should compensate for the step out. All right, I can see our mark on here. It's getting hot, so I'm gonna get it right here. Tricky because you're working backwards from the other one. There's our mark. Curl this down a bit past our mark, which should be all right. Now the hardest thing is getting your two holes to line up side to side. That's the big deal with this operation right here. So you just have to kind of work with it. Not too bad, not too bad. Need to check these holes and see how they're lining up. Looks like it could still use coming down a little bit right on this side. Rob a little bit there. Seems like this one is a little bit off that direction. It's better. So what I'm seeing is this side needs to be closed up just a little bit to make it work. All right, needs to be closed up a little bit. So that's what we're going to do. Close it up a little bit, just like that. Lay this down on my straight edge over here. And I can tell that my Bolt holes are lining up nice now. There we go. That's better. Thing about working at a forge is you don't have to worry about getting cold. So what we're gonna do now is up here on top, we're gonna add a little bracket that comes out probably just about 1.5 inches. Just a little nub here so we can put the hole in for the adjustment screw to adjust the shoe up and down. While this is cooling down, I'll make ready the piece that's going to be welded on for the ear for the adjustment. So what I've come up with on this is I'm going to take this piece of 1/4 inch scrap plate and I'm going to cut a piece off of it to make our bracket that sticks out. We're going to drill our hole in that for our adjustment screw. I took this little piece of angle and folded it up. I'm going to knock the sharp edges off it, weld it on the bottom of the bolt for the adjustment wheel, and that will go under the hook on the shoe, and it will raise and lower that shoe by way of that bracket with the adjusting wheel on top of this plate. Now we got to drill our hole here for the adjustment rod to go down through. We might have should have done that before, but having this on here will make it easier. I won't have to put the vise on the drill press to hold this little piece to drill it. I should be able to hold it with just these and drill it. So it'll work out. This is the adjustment wheel for the shoe. This rod, the hole that we're about to drill right here, this rod will go down through that. This adjustment wheel will be on top so that when they adjust this, it raises and lowers this rod, which in turn on the bottom side raises and lowers the shoe. The next thing I'm going to do is grind this weld off to where it's not so rough, so that when we set this down on the table of the drill press, it sets nice and flat and it's not rocking around like that. Right here you can see it's 1 5/8 from the center of our mounting holes to the outside edge. If I remember correctly, that outside edge is the inside of the slot where the bottom of our adjustment bolt will go. So I'll come out from where the center mounting holes are, 1 5/8, and I'll drill the hole inside that measurement. 2 1/8. It's right here. Has to be inside that. And we'll get our center here. All right. So we're going to put our mark for center. Right here. Now we can drill it. I reckon every drill bit I got's dull. Well, that's not true. Just got lucky and got the two that was. I think that might work. I left a little extra well bead on each side here, and what that will do is in that shoe there's a slot. So there's bead on the front and bead on the back. It'll go into that slot and keep it from twisting around when you're adjusting the hand wheel up on top right here. So this will go, it looks like about 8 inches from the holes up to there. So I'm guessing that shoe is gonna be in the neighborhood of, right in that neighborhood somewhere. So this will bolt onto the mill, and this will hook into the shoe on top, and he will be able to adjust where this is at with this hand wheel. Now, when this thing's on the mill and that shoe is shaking, there's going to be a tendency, even though the shoe is slotted so that it can shake without moving this bolt minimally, there is a possibility that this is going to back off, this adjustment wheel. It's just going to keep creeping back, and the shoe will go faster and faster, and that'll start feeding more grain. We don't want that to happen. So what I think the best thing to do is to put this spring. So he'll put this rod up through the shoe, put the spring on it, put it here, put the hand wheel on. So now you've got an adjustment, and it can be adjusted whatever it needs. If it needs more length, which I don't think it will, just add more spring to it. That's all you got to do. Now this is solid, this can shake, and it's going to hold this hand wheel in place. And we'll do something else here to ensure that that happens. One more thing I want to do to it. So what I'm going to do, where this hand wheel contacts the plate, I'm going to take my chisel and I'm going to cut in all the way around so that it's got a rough texture to keep this wheel in place. Even with the spring, it'll help a lot just doing this. Now this is closed up the top of our hole that we drilled a little bit. So to fix that, I'm going to put this over the Pritchell hole. Put this punch in here, just like so. A little bit more. Now we're good. One more thing I'm gonna do while we have this over here. So when this is bolted onto the mill, I don't want it ever twisting like this. So I'm gonna do the same thing around the inside of where this is gonna attach to the mill. What this is going to do is the same thing that the ones we just cut is going to do up there. It's going to rough that surface up, and it's going to make it grip on to that spout when he puts it on there. What it does is it forms little shoulders. It upsets that metal and forms little shoulders that will grab on to that spout. As it's squeezed against it, it'll grab onto it and prevent the thing from twisting. And that is what we want. Then the bracket will be bolted onto the mill with a through bolt. I think a through bolt is best right here. A through bolt meaning a bolt that goes all the way through. That way, if you got two bolts, either the bolt or the nut gets loose, it's going to come off and go right down into the feed intake of the mill. So we don't want that to happen. So if you bolt it with a through bolt and don't tighten it up real tight, just bolt it with a through bolt. That way, if anything ever comes loose, nothing goes into the stones. Now this is the bolt that I'm going to put through here. Alright, I'll put it through here. Now these carriage bolts, they have a shoulder on them, a square shoulder. Now what that's going to do is we squared up this hole just a little bit so that this shoulder will fit in there. And it'll lock in and hold. When he tightens it up, it won't twist on him. You could put a bolt head over here, just a regular bolt, but this looks a lot better than a bolt head sticking up. All right, this is for my customer. So this bolts on the spout of your mill with the bracket pointing out towards you. The end of the shoe will be sticking out here with a slotted hole. This bolt will go up through that hole in the shoe. Spring with the pointier end will go down on top of this. Then this will go up through the hole, and you may have to put it all together. Like if your shoe's sticking out right here, you may have to hold this spring, put this through the shoe, right up through that hole. The shoe probably going to be right in this area right here somewhere. So probably put the spring here, put this bolt up through the hole on your shoe, right through, like that. Hey, Bear. Hey, boy, what are you doing down here? Did you come to see me, huh? I know what you want. Right here's what he wants, ain't it, boy? That's what he wants. That's what he's trying to tell me. Yeah, that's what he wants. Now, I'm going to start all over because Bear interrupted us. So this is mounted on the spout of your mill. This is pointing out towards you. The end of the shoe sticks out right here with that slotted hole in it. So you'll put this up through the slotted hole. The pointy end of the spring will be down, up through the spring, through the bracket. And your shoe's going to be sitting on this, hanging on it right here. The next thing will be to put your hand wheel on, just like this. You can tighten this. This should not twist inside that slot. You can tighten this to adjust that shoe up and down to feed the grain in accordingly. The shoe's shaking back and forth, which will slide on top of this. This will stay in place. Cut the bolt off to the length it needs to be. Down here, one side of this hole is more square. It's going to be, if it's facing out, it'll be your right hand side. Put the bolt in from the right hand side. Got you a Teflon coated nut here so that it won't back off and come loose. Tighten that down, not too tight, just snug it up to where it's not moving around. Should be good to go. Folks, we appreciate you tuning in today, helping us make this bracket. This is going to, like I said, a customer in Mississippi. Hopefully going to put them to grinding some grain down there. I hope to get some pictures, maybe video, I don't know, but whatever feedback I get from them, I'll let you know about it. I changed my name a little bit. Appalachia's Metcalf Mills, because this is Appalachia, and I'm Appalachian, and this is Metcalf Mills, and Mills is not all we do around here. So I thought that name, it may be more of a broader coverage of what we do here at Metcalf Mills and who we are. So I hope everybody followed that. It was kind of a spur thing. I know I didn't give you any warning. Hopefully it hadn't caused anybody any problems in finding us. But me and the girls appreciate you watching. Hit that like button if you will. Subscribe if you ain't already. Tell your friends about us. This is Justro at Metcalf Mills. I look forward to seeing you next time.